Yeah, I think it will be appropriate to start by talking about the first generation because, well, they have that there's this very big aspect in which they're different from the second generation. And it is that they joined the church, and it's like they had life before the church, basically. And while the second generation kind of grows up, with a lot of expectations and a lot of taboos and things like that. The first generation, and we never really chosen it. Well, until later in life when we kind of have a chance to change something. But yeah, it's not always been like that for the first generation. And yeah, basically they joined voluntarily, and while they could do all those things, because of which some second generation members decide to leave, dating, free sex, and drugs and things like that. They had all that, but they sacrificed all that. And it's like, so it was something very powerful that kind of made them sacrifice that and join the movement. And yeah, the sacrifices they had to make are like huge. I can really imagine making sacrifices like that when, for example, my dad, he graduated from university. He studied to be an engineer, and then he spent like 10 years in the movement and doing full-time mission. And it's like, after those 10 years, no one really needed his engineering degree, because the world changed in those 10 years. So it's like, and yeah, apart from education, they also have to sacrifice their career, job, time, sometimes even relationships with their families. If the families are, not religious at all, or are very religious, but, kind of are of different religion. And so, yeah, but first generation voluntarily choose to give up all that, and just like their freedom to date and basically the only relationship, like when they join, they realize that they will have to give up all that. And they also know that the only relationship they're ever going to have in their lives is with some random person whom they will, only get to know after they marry them. And yeah, but yeah, and at the same time, they choose that instead of by giving up all those things that are of value in the like, what is it? Oh, I'm sorry, in the secular society. But on the other hand, second generation, basically, yeah, we're kind of born into families where we're taught that, so many things that people around us enjoy doing and that are completely normal for them, and that, yeah, our peers enjoy doing and often do it right in front of us, are wrong, and that we should never really do them. And yeah, we also have a lot of expectations and a lot of things we're supposed to do as Moonies, and here are some of them. You can see my screen well, right? You can see both lists. Okay, good. Yeah, so basically here's just some, I'm not sure if these are all the things, but I guess most of them. I'll quickly go through these two. And what are they? Yeah, unwritten checklists. So yeah, we have to attend, we're supposed to go to church regularly, do tithing, attend holidays, workshops, events, go to Chongpyeon at least once in our life, do some fundraising and witnessing. And apart from that, when it comes to some, day-to-day things, we have to believe that True Father is the Messiah. We have to study his words, and which includes reading some of the literature, like the Divine Principle and audiobook and the autobiography. And yeah, most importantly, which I think are these the hardcore part of the unwritten checklist, no alcohol, no drugs, no sex, till the blessing, and the blessing itself And these are the points that I'm gonna mostly focus on today, because, well, apart from the fact that they're kind of, the most tempting things to do, and like the most tempting rules to break, they're also the most important ones, and they're also kind of the reason some people might be discriminated is because they break these rules. It's not because they don't read enough DP or something like that usually. So yeah. And yeah, we do all these things, and that makes us look like, sometimes it often makes us look like weirdos in the eyes of members of secular society. We kind of don't feel like we belong there, but like, we have to, well, at least it's been like that for me. I'm either with the church or I'm there. It's like, you have to choose what values you comply with, I guess. And yeah, there are a lot of things we have to do, but we've never really been asked if we want to do all these things and if we want to have all these rules, which is like different, which is the opposite of how it was for the first generation, when they had all these things, when they didn't really have any limits, but they chose to have them. Or like, limits is a negative word, and I don't mean that these are good rules. It's amazing that we have them, but yeah, they didn't have them, and they chose to have them. As the opposite for us. And yeah, and we like they had, even when they joined the church, but before they joined the church, they usually, most of them have had some kind of relationship with the opposite gender. Many of them tried alcohol and drugs and things like that, so they know what they are. Whereas there is no like legitimate way, or like a real way for us to, like, for the second generation to try those things without violating the rules. So we can't really experience it. Like, we can't really try them and understand that they're bad and then not do them again. Like, of course many people do, but like, yeah, it's we're not supposed to, we're not, like, it's bad. no one really will approve of it, like, in my experience. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. And yeah, and since we don't have a way like to try those things, but many people still find them very tempting, after having reached a certain age when people are kind of conscious and can think for themselves, people decide to go their own ways in life and try those things. But often, I'm not sure about how often. I personally don't really have much experience with that, but I know that many of you do. But yeah, some of them decide to come back, and there are like three cases. There are three main ways that I've found with that, like, in which people can violate the rules. Three main types of nonconformists. At first, it's the people who just left the church and then they want to come back and not do drugs and not date again. So basically, come back to the place which they once lived. The other category is people who attend the church but still don't follow some of the hardcore rules. So they, for example, have a girlfriend on the side or something like that, but no one really knows about them, about her. And yeah, the third one, which I think is the hardest, which I guess this topic of inclusivity is mostly about, people who want to attend the church but refuse to follow some of the hardcore rules. So, for example, I listened to one of the episodes of the Luna String podcast recently, and they interviewed basically a couple of second generation, and it's like, yeah, they both are second generation, and they date each other, but they're not matched, and they're not blessed, and they openly date each other, they attend the church, and they're like, you know, a boyfriend and a girlfriend in the church, even though like the relationship is not principled. So the third category includes people like that mostly. Yeah, and yeah, the way how we should, you know, treat such people, and how we should, you know, go about, you know, cases when there's a couple, when there is an unprincipled couple that attends a church, how we should just overall go about such cases, or when, you know, the second generation decide to change their gender, things like that. That this is something we could talk about today. But before we do that, I wanted to, yeah, there's basically a very good video that's very related to this topic. It's called how, just a second. It's called, ooh, wait. It's going wrong. Yeah, it's called What Defines a Moonie? And special thanks to Bea for mentioning this video once in one of our meetings. That's how I learned about it. I'm sure some of you have watched it already, but I think that everyone should watch it. So I'm just gonna put the link in the chat so that you could save it and maybe watch later, because it's really cool. Just a second. Here it is. Yeah, and well, there's one point that the narrator in this video talks about, which I think is very interesting, is that some communities are more demanding than others, and that how accepted people are might depend on the particular community they're in. So basically, those same people who don't feel accepted in their own church might feel perfectly accepted in another church. They just, you know, need to go to a different community, and they will be perfectly accepted there. And yeah, I think this is something that I've found very interesting. And the last thing I wanted to share is 4 quotes from that video, which I think could be very suitable to our discussions. And I'll basically just read them out to you, and then I'll give you these questions, which are not supposed to be here now. Oh, damn. Yeah. Here are the quotes, so I'll read them out. Yeah, the first one is, the church does not want to close its doors on anyone, but it does so unconsciously. And the second one is, some of us forgive more easily than others, and some of us accept forgiveness more easily than others. The third is, our goal as unificationists is not to unite the world under the same belief, but to unite the world despite our different beliefs. And the last one, which I've almost told already, some communities are more demanding than others. They place higher expectations in the members of their congregation, and when you don't feel those when you don't fulfill those expectations, it's easy to feel left out. And yeah, yes, that's it. Thank you for listening. Here are the questions, and I think they're very clear, so there is no need for me to explain them. Yeah.
Well, awesome, Rodion. That's his first speech. Everyone, it's awesome first speech. Thank you so much. It seems like you prepared a lot and it's delivered it quite well. So it's really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are we all ready for breakout rooms? Are you all snuggled up in your warm blanket? Or then if you're in a t-shirt like Bauer, I hope you're got enough heating on. Yeah, let's Let's dive in. Okay, cool.